In this video, I am going to teach you all about the weird and wonderfuls from one of the master breeders, Ikarashi Ozumi. This guy's like a mad scientist. He needs to be praised for what he does, because producing the weird and wonderful is one of the very hardest things to do in koi, and I don't think this guy gets enough credit. I've got a phenomenal batch of Tosai from him this year that I've been growing so far, and today I've done a selection where I've pulled out a variety of different fish that he produces to show you guys and teach you about the selection criteria for a lot of these weird and wonderful. Better still, at the end of this video, not only do I guarantee you will have learnt something, whether it be a new variety or how to select better one of these weird and wonderful varieties, the very fish you see in this video will be coming available on my new platform for you to buy and have me grow on here at the farm until the end of September. So make sure you stay tuned for that little bit. If you can't wait, it is in the description, but you're going to miss out on all that learning. Right, first up, two varieties I really adore from this farm. Goshiki and Beni Kujaku. Now I say Beni Kujaku because that is really the style that you get here. Not all Kujaku go this shade of intense red with that dark background, but they do from Ikarashi Ozumi. The farm, believe it or not, is actually best known for Beni Kikokuryu, but we're going to get to that. That's where it's most famous creation, and it does actually claim to be the creator of that variety. But here, the Kujaku. Now, these are not just with breeders like this, there's always a bigger picture, and one spawning could produce multiple different fish, because he also makes Beni Ginga, he makes a yellow variant of Ginga as well. And in order to make Ginga, the general crossing, not always, but the general crossing is Matsukawabake with Kujaku, because in essence what they become is a very, very dark based Kujaku with that intense red sat on the top. But from that spawning you would get absolutely all sorts throughout, including just Kujaku themselves. That's what we've got here, and I am delighted to have these, because getting hold of good Kujaku is very, very difficult. And as you can see quite clearly, coloration of them, I'm just going to exclude one that's not quite there yet, but if we look at these three examples that I think are just delightful. Got the bigger one off. Already they are showing a superb base colour, and in Beni Kujaku it's not completely essential, but I would expect there to be some element of the Beni looking a bit more intense at this age. I think that's going to be crucial in order for it to get the real, and this is a crazy intense tone we're talking about as they get older. Now what I like about these that he does, they can get a good size. They're not the craziness of Omasako, Kujaku and Konishi. Them guys really crack that in that respect. But they have got the colour. These have got very pleasant body lines. Kujaku are notoriously difficult with the belly line. You have to watch. There's a particular producer in Japan, Kanoko, who makes fantastic Beni Kujaku, but as far as, or to my experience with them, the body line is shocking. They naturally carry quite a heavy gut and can be a little bit stout and compact, and it's an issue. I don't see that with Ozumi's examples, which is very, very good to know. Now when you're selecting these, the main points to look for is, not just going to say cleanliness, but shine. Shine is so important in any metallic variety. And when I look at shine, I'm looking at the head, I'm looking at the fins, and then obviously the shine throughout the whole body. And as you'll see here, these do very well in all them areas. Then I like to see the plain metallic silver pecks and the head as much as possible, but it's not essential, especially more so when it comes to Beni Kujaku. Expect the head to be a bit darker and some darkening in the fins. Even with normal Kujaku, I've seen it at all Japan level where the fins are not completely silver, so don't panic about that, don't stress about it. It's so hard to get the main attributes of Kujaku right. If you then narrow it down to expecting completely clean silver fins in all examples, you're just not going to get there. The big focus you need to look at is in the Matsubamon, and that is the kind of the black patterning you get in the fish later in life. You can see a little bit more on this one at the moment showing through in the back. It's not really clear in these, And that's right, because these will darken with age. So what we don't want is all this to be too dark now. I think these are in a really, given that they are true Beni Kujaku, I think they're in a really good spot where they are at the moment to progress through into Nisai. Good examples. And the Matsubamon, you might see there's a couple of darker areas within the fish. That's because it's just overdeveloped a little bit and you need to grow well now in the right conditions to drop that back and the true Matsubamon pattern to form a bit later on. So the other two examples here just show a difference in colour. Now we've got one in this one that will be Beni Kujaku later in its life. I really like that. It's got a real prominent structure to it. There's going to be some great size and really clean Matsubamon breakthrough eventually. But of course, again, it's very light at the moment. It's not 100% there. There's work to be done, but it just needs time. The other one's got a very different colour, as you can see. Now there's the potential for that to turn red. I think over time with raising, it will get a lot stronger in coloration than that one, no doubt. But it will not reach this one, and the other three previously will be very different in the respect of the base colour will also become darker, whereas I believe this one will maintain a lighter background to it and eventually a stronger tone to that Beni. Both examples, really nice body lines, but it's not bad in this case, please understand that. It's just different, and knowing the difference is important. Now on to Goshiki with this one Ginrin example. I like this because there's a varying level of progression in this net already with a nice consistent trait in the body. If you actually study this net full, you'll see the body lines, even including the Ginrin, very consistent with a good head shape, good height to the body as well, which I like a lot. Now the default style at Ikarashi for Goshiki is the Kuro style, where they get a black base and you get that electric Beni sat on the top. It's the ultimate contrast. It looks amazing. That doesn't naturally happen straight away though, it needs a bit of time. Now what you can see here is one example that has already progressed a little bit more. It's got a darker head. This dark head is exactly where I'd expect most of these to end later on. It's just progressed a little bit earlier. Now there's even a chance though in the next phase of the growth it actually all lightens off a bit before progressing further in the autumn and winter season. Floating Beni is not actually something I expect to see with Ozumi Goshiki because there's a lot of sumi in there because of that, the depth of that Kuro base. And what you tend to find is you will get a bit of breakthrough into the Beni, and sometimes as well the traditional kind of robing net pattern, Amime, which does actually look really impressive. I think there's been a complete obsession with floating Beni and it overtakes it because it's so hard to achieve the level that is aspired to. But Ozumi Goshiki aren't pretending to be that. There will be the odd one, but typically in my experience you do get a bit of breakthrough. But the Beni gets to such a level against that black base that I think you tend to overlook it because of how impressive they look. Amongst this net we see the one that's progressed. Even that base colour's not up to its strength yet. I expect it to be more like the head. And then we've got the flip end of the scale, the other one that's a lot lighter at the moment. That's eventually going to reach that, I do believe. And this one that's actually sat a bit in between. You can see the early signs of the robing coming through on there. That's not a bad thing. That is a style of Goshiki that was more prominent, you know, years back when I started in koi more so. And it can look so impressive when that Beni quality is right and everything else checks out. So don't just overlook that with the floating Beni obsession. It's not the be all and end all with Goshikis. What you see with those three, they've got a very good pattern level looking at the Beni. But one thing I do want to point out with Goshiki is that there can be an obsession with getting the right Kohaku pattern. Some of these patterns I don't think would work for Kohaku, but I like to consider the base colour a part of the pattern in some bloodlines in particular. If these form that Amime kind of net effect in the sumi, that is a dimension of the pattern that adds to it. Plus, in the likes of Kanno Goshiki, which is no relation to these, but with Kanno Goshiki, the robing effect on the back is so strong, it really does form part of the pattern and can compensate in areas where there might not be Beni, that in a Kohaku it would need Beni in that area to add the balance. It can be the all-round balance and effect that kicks in here. The Ginrin one pretty much follows suit, same characteristics, but you've got that added dimension of the Ginrin, and Ginrin quality is nice. I'm really impressed as a Ginrin example how good that body is, but this guy, as a Goshiki producer, really is right up there for me, and if you like that Kuro style, certainly somewhere to go. Right, there's quite a lot in here to debunk, and I'm going to talk you through it from the best of my knowledge. I'm not saying this is all correct. I've not got an inside track on the breeding operations at Ikarashi Ozumi, because I should imagine there's quite a lot of secrets there. But the first bit's quite an easy one. Ginrin Ochiba, and they do look stunning. Now, one thing you have to bear in mind with Ginrin Ochiba is that the coloration changes. So technically Ochiba Shigure, and the translation is loosely around fallen leaves or autumn leaves, and the coloration does change with the seasons depending on the water temperature. In really warm water where they're at now, they will darken. In the autumn temperatures, they'll lighten off, and you get with these a really nice reddy brown colour for the pigmentation. Now, with these two examples, what really stands out for me, they've got a nice balanced pattern. You probably want to be looking a little bit more to a structured pattern on these, although the informal quirkiness can really work. If it sits on a good body with good coloration, it does change your whole view on them typically. So Ginrin nice across the fish. You do have to look through where that pigment is at the moment, but overall these are two very, very nice examples and part of the big pool we're going to move into of Ochiba breeding operations. There's likely a lot here coming from the one spawning that he's producing. I don't know the full extent of it. There's a bit here that you can kind of figure out from it, but it's often the case, like I say, with the likes of Ikarashi, you've got to have these crazy spawnings to get a potential end result. Sometimes some of the varieties along the way can not necessarily be something permanent at the farm if there's a vision in the end, but Ochiba he has been doing for a number of years now, and the Ginrin variant as well. So this is where it gets interesting. I wouldn't say confusing, but certainly interesting. So, knowing that he breeds Ochiba, he also breeds Kogane Ochiba, which is a metallic version. And in this instance, what we actually see here, these are quite unique. Now, if you're looking for them to be technically textbook on point, as a Chagoi and Ochiba, they wouldn't do it. But as unique Kawari, that's a word to introduce here. Examples, Kawarigoi tends to be a classification where if something can't be fit into a particular box or variety, it gets thrown in here. Now on these two, I am going with Chagoi and Ochiba, but what there is a unique trait that clearly in the crossing or in the spawning, there's been the introduction of metallic fish, which is possibly where he gets to the Kogane Ochiba root. And what's happened in these, we can see there's elements where the metallic has actually come through in parts of the fish, not all of it. I think the Chagoi actually shows a bit of a metallic glow through the body and stronger elements on the head. But then, of course, there's the normal matte coloration in there as well. Just makes for something quite unique looking. The fish themselves are really strong. The Chagoi shows nice Amime, so does the Ochiba. It's an important part of Ochiba that. You want that scale pattern there. Coloration's absolutely delightful on both fish. You can see that one, and again, that's going to change with the seasons. They are in warm water, but it's even very pleasing now, which is really, really reassuring. Of course, with any of these varieties, we always still need to pay attention to the body. We don't expect all of these to be massive growers, because just achieving these quirky varieties can be difficult in itself. In saying that, it's pretty customary that, you know, 70, 75 would be achievable with a lot of these, 65 at the low end, and never doubt that's still quite an impressive looking fish, especially when you get these sort of varieties at that kind of size level. But it is important you do check out the body line overall to give them the very best chances. Right, next, and we've mentioned it, Ginrin Matsukawabake. These are always a quirky one, always a fun one to watch. Kumonryu in origins, they all share very similar genetics. And like I said, because he's producing Ginga, it's likely that somewhere in that production, along with Kujaku, it's being used in order to get the dark base in there. Really, really important. I was once with Katsumi of NMBC, and he was absolutely besotted with trying to make the best Ginga, and it's exactly the pairing he was going for, Kujaku with Matsukawabake. So in this particular example, what stood out to me is the bone structure. They tend to be, because of genetically, they're a lot further down the family tree of koi, if you like. Structurally, they always tend to be good and be good growers. In this particular instance, the Sum is really down on the body at the minute. We can see the Ginrin's nice. I'm happy with the size of the head and the rest of the structure. When it pans out later in life, I think we can see we've got Motoguro in there. I expect that to stay as it is. We're going to have white tippage around the fins as well, which will be quite cool. and I'm expecting that the head pattern will stay quite quirky and different, but we're going to have quite a solid Sumi base on the body. Got a lot more to come from it. So not something that he completely focuses on as a breeder, but something he will get as a result of his other breeding endeavours. And now we have Shusui, and again actually a variety. When I think of Shusui, somewhere I would head pretty quickly. He's developed these really well, again potentially as a part of his overall production, but Shusui can be a fantastic base for producing other fish off the back of it as well. The Aya Wakaba being one that springs to mind. Not something that he produces here, but is quite prevalent at Yamanaka Oya and Marasaka Koi farm. But this particular example in front of us has got a fantastic scale line all the way down the back, which is quite important. Nicely balanced Beni across the fins and the whole body as well. The head skin needs to thicken up. It's important with these, you don't want them too dark, too young, because just like with the Asagi that they're closely related to, they do darken more with age. Shusui are generally very good growers as a variety. Nobody's done anything particularly special to push that any further, just genetically what they're capable of. And they do achieve a really high level of coloration. Ikarashi Ozumi has done well at the All Japan scene with his Shusui over the years. And like I say, he's one of the first guys I think of when you mention the variety. Now to what I'm calling Ginga, but this is certainly open for debate. I'm only calling it Ginga because I believe I've figured out the origins here. Now you've already heard me say earlier in the video he's making Beni Ginga and a yellow variant of Ginga as well. Kinryu is one name that's been mentioned for these. There's a few banded around now. Until it tends to been around for quite a while stably, I don't really buy into that because these could be a flash 1 year then gone. But looking at these, what we've got basically is the Ginga coloration without the black base pattern, so just solid. And it's only these that could come from that type of spawning. So we're going with Ginga at the moment. Like I say, it's open for debate. Maybe this is something he's just keeping because there's certainly a few of them, or leading into something bigger. We don't know. These guys don't often share that until they've actually stabilized something. But if we take them on face value and basing it on the Ginga, they are a metallic based koi. And what we want to be looking at is the luster in the head across the whole body and fins again, which they look very good. The heads are nice and clean, nice and shiny, which I want to see because I do know there'll be some darkening through them later on. And what I can also see is the base of an Amime pattern, so that netting effect. And as they grow a bit bigger, there's likely a bit of fuchering going to creep in, although I'm not sure they'll ever become a size where that'll be super prevalent, but it will be there and have an impact because the whole scale pattern as these get bigger will totally transform. But for now, you just have to roll with it, and I believe they just look superb. They stand out in this batch of fish, that's for sure, and I can't wait to see them grow through to Nisai. Ginrin Kanoko Asagi, and as a result of this we often get Asagi from him, Ginrin Asagi, normal ones, and then the Kanoko variations which are here. What I love about them is it can do two things. We've got one here that is fully Kanoko, looks superb, and then that Kanoko can eventually form random patterns which we see in the slightly bigger bodied example as well. Asagi is such an important variety, being the base of all koi varieties we know. They can do so much, and so many breeders have done so much in producing other varieties off of the back of them. But in this instance, this has been a staple at his farm for a long time now. I really enjoy them. We see two very different bone structures here, and yes, you know, it is likely that this one will lag behind a little bit because it's going to be in upon competing against the bigger one. However, it doesn't mean it won't grow, it will, and if the conditions are more tailored to its needs, it'll race on. But you can't deny how fantastic the random Kanoko looks on that example. Then with the other, we've got the bigger body. The colour, especially with the bigger one, is not fully up yet. You can see the tone on the head is already more than on the body, which is completely normal. The body will eventually catch up to the head with good raising. That's also the same on the smaller one, but we can see the colour across the board is already a lot stronger. So yeah, they're going to be good fun. They are quite unpredictable. We never truly know how they're going to end up. But as that colour really strengthens, the base colour can tend to go a bit Asagi style with the Amime. Some do, some don't. And there's a lot more skin thickening here to be done yet, so we won't truly know until they've grown on a little bit more. But they are a fish to really enjoy the journey and get something totally unique out the end of it. Now, two varieties that people can get confused, not these particular styles, but there's a style of Beni Kumonryu that can look a little bit like Doitsu. So on this net, we have a Doitsu and a Beni Kumonryu. They're easy to tell apart, but there's a version of Beni Kumonryu that has the red, black and white, and people can get them confused with Doitsu and Doitsu. In this case, however, Beni Kumonryu, another great staple at Ozumi, and again, you know, there's a lot of, we've seen Matsukawabake, there's a lot of these varieties with Kumonryu origins in here. We're going to see two more shortly after these. And a big thing he's now producing, he's gone and called them Black Dragon. I think all that stuff gets really confusing and frustrating, but they are a Wagoi version of Beni Kumonryu, so fully scaled, and they've been looking quite superb. They'll both be coming from the same spawning. They're like this style of Beni Kumonryu, but of course Wagoi, like I've just said. Now, the Wagoi version, which has also been called Yamanagashi at some farms, is not the only one who's produced it. Matsukawabake is going to be at the root of all that, so you see that once again, Matsukawabake potentially at the root of Beni Ginga and all this as well. It's pretty complex stuff. But yeah, looks stunning. They change a lot, Kumonryu. They can really evolve. The Sumi isn't the most stable, but when you get it good, my God, they do tend to stop you in your tracks, and you've just got to say, wow, as I did when I saw that one. With the Doitsu, there's a lot to do on this one yet. Coloration, it's a little bit stretched in a couple of areas because it's been competitive. The water's been incredibly warm as well, and the Sumi is sat down, but there's been a recent emergence here of some Katazumi, which is Sumi on the shoulder, which will really balance that up. But I think with the right raising will really lift the colour standard in there up. But again, Doitsu been a fantastic staple now at Ozumi. Not big numbers, because any Gosanke is incredibly challenging, but I think he's done really well here in what he's created. Now we've got two random ones that are really out there. He has this year some Ginrin Kinshowa, and as a result we've got what's here, Ginrin Kin Utsuri. Now, it's typical with these that the Sumi isn't the most stable. When you get them in a blue bowl environment and slightly stress them, it fades off. This swimming in the pond looks absolutely fierce. Sumi is solid, looks excellent. The combination of colours, because it's going to reach a much more vibrant and deep red yet as well. So as that grows through with the Ginrin, strong posture it's got, I think it's going to look superb. And then this year as well, he's also had a few Sakura Ogon, which are basically a Kujaku without the Matsubamon, plain silver and metallic with the red pattern as well. This, weirdly, is so unique, is a Ginrin Tancho Sakura Ogon. You can see the metallicness to the head and through the body as well. Just totally unique. That type of thing is such a rare item that you can't focus on the quality of the spot. It's not like we're talking about a fish of thousands of pounds, but it is, if you're into collecting varieties and different, it's some fish that will tick a unique box for you. Sakura Ogon, you see there, another result of his ability in breeding Kujaku, would allow him to go on and produce the Sakura Ogon from that and the other variants. Whether there's any crossover here, I'm not 100% sure. I think he's going to have something, because we've not seen any signs of Kinshowa to have helped him leapfrog onto here. But again, time will tell, but it's just more and more coming from the farm. Again, there might be a bigger picture, we're not sure, but two unique fish for now that I think will be a great addition for most collections. The last one I've saved is what Ikarashi Koi Farm is probably famed for the most, Beni Kikokuryu. Now there's only one on this net, because this is actually Doitsu Kujaku, but there's a fine line, we'll get to that, and then the standard Ki Kikokuryu as well, which they're a metallic version of Kumonryu. This is a metallic version of Beni Kumonryu. There is a complicated one in that Kase some years ago actually made a direct metallic Beni Kumonryu. Look very different to this, because this doesn't fully look like that, but that is the bloodline. So Kikokuryu are very much a standalone variety now, but it's nice to get some level of association. Legend has it that it was Ikarashi Ozumi that created it. As far as I was aware, it was Kasei and Aoki that created it together. They certainly made the normal Kikokuryu, but the Beni version, it's a contentious matter, one for the history books. But nonetheless, they are very different. Kasei and Aoki made a very certain style that is now very prominent at Aoki Koi Farm. Ikarashi Ozumi went ahead and made one that actually grows a lot bigger and comes in quite a lot of different variants and styles as well. This style we see here is actually similar to that of Aoki in that we have the Beni and then you have a solidified Sumi, which is really nice, it's really well defined. You also get a variant from him that has more of a gunmetal grey base, that you have a Beni, not a clean Beni either, that sits on, and also the yellow version, which is solely associated to being created at Ikarashi. That's the Ki Kikokuryu. But that debate to one side, he is one of the few prominent creators of it and one of the originals. It's good to go to him and get these examples. There's not massive amounts we see these days, but they're always good. And this one really stands out. It's got great shine, great Sumi quality. There's a lot more to come from this Beni yet as well. And it's got a nice structure. The Motoguro in the fins is really working well, and of course, you know, great shine across the whole fish. Here what we see, and it can be something closely associated to Kikokuryu, is Doitsu Kujaku. It's a fine line, but what this one doesn't have, look, is the Sumi element that would make it Kikokuryu. And instead we've got the Kujaku based colours in orange, metallic orange and silver, and the Kujaku scale line we expect to see down the back. Something very difficult and not many produced in the koi world in general. Then we have something I'm incredibly fond of, just in the two Kikokuryu here. Again, we're looking at Kumonryu attributes really, with the metallic laid over the top. Developing really well. This one's showing really nice colour. You can really see the Kumonryu in this, just with the metallic overlaid. Important to check the shine once again, which you can see strong in both fish. They can change a lot, bear that in mind, just like Kumonryu do. This one, a little bit different. I think the base colour hasn't actually thickened and formed yet. It'll be hard to know whether that's going to turn into full Sumi or actually eventually turn silver. But what we do know is, look, there's Motoguro coming up in the fins and there's change to come on the head yet. So big journey with that one and the other one as well. But I think the other one's maybe slightly more predictable than where that one's going to turn out. But it's nice to get these varieties from their original sources. And yeah, although these two I don't think will be monstrous fish, looking at the bone structures, the Beni Kikokuryu we looked at stands a good chance, and the Doitsu Kujaku are going to kick on and do really, really well. I hope you've learned something from that, and now you realise why I think Ikarashi Ozumi is massively underappreciated as a master of the weird and wonderful, and just how difficult it is. But those guys can produce so much, it's just a case of reining it in. And sometimes you can get stuff that might be there one year, gone the next. It can often just depend on what they decide to keep during the selection phase shortly after breeding. Now, everything you've seen there is currently live and available with £100 starting bids on my new platform, RickyStoddartNishikigoi.com. They get to stay here growing to the end of September, and it's all included in your final bid. They're fully backed by our life and quality guarantee as well. On top of that, each fish on the new platform shortly after purchasing, everything's completed on there, is shortly added to your, what we call My Collection, which is a digital collection of all the fish you purchase on the platform there, with all the details and information. You can head over, create a free account and start taking part. Bidding's done there, transactions are completed there, and you can start building that amazing collection and interacting with all the amazing community members and community features that we're building on there. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you're inspired by any of them, jump over to the platform and take part and see if you can bag your example, and we'll be updating on all those fish come the harvest time when the growing period's finished. Thanks for watching.